Younger me, if I could sit you down right now, I'd tell you something that would change everything. But I know you wouldn't believe me. Not yet. Because right now you think you have time. You think life stretches endlessly ahead, that everything you dream of, success, happiness, meaning, is waiting for you somewhere in the distance, just beyond the next milestone, just beyond the next achievement. You tell yourself that if you make the right choices, avoid enough mistakes, and work hard enough, everything will fall into place. But one day, sooner than you think, you'll wake up and realize you're not chasing a future anymore. You're standing in it, and you won't be asking what's next. You'll be asking, was this it? Younger me, you will reach a point where the things you spent years striving for will start to feel different. The success you once chased will not satisfy you the way you imagined. The failures you spent your life avoiding will suddenly feel less like endings and more like turning points. And that is when you will realize midlife is not a crisis. It is an awakening. But by then, you will also wonder, how much of your life did you spend running from the lessons that were always trying to find you? I've brought some people with me today. Great minds who understood what most never do. Jung, the man who uncovered the hidden self and believed that failure is never random, that there are unseen patterns guiding us, shaping us, leading us to where we are meant to be. Friedrich Nietzsche, who knew that adversity is not a curse but the very thing that makes you unbreakable. Thomas Edison, who refused to see failure as anything other than a lesson, a necessary step towards success. Carol Dweck, who discovered that intelligence, talent, and ability are never fixed, that with every mistake you grow. Winston Churchill, who stood in the face of despair and knew that persistence alone can outlast even the darkest days. And J.K. Rowling, who lost everything she thought she needed and discovered that rock bottom wasn't the end. It was the foundation upon which she rebuilt a life worth living. Younger me, they have something to tell you, something that will change the way you see failure and the way you see yourself. Because midlife is not a crisis, it is an awakening, and every failure you once feared, every mistake you tried to avoid was never meant to break you. It was meant to show you who you were always meant to be. Younger me, you think failure is random, that when things fall apart, it's because you made a mistake, that you weren't smart enough, fast enough, good enough. You believe that if you had just tried harder, been better, done everything right, things would have worked out the way you planned. But what if I told you? Failure is not an accident. What if I told you? It is the universe speaking to you. Carl Jung spent his life studying something called synchronicity. The idea that there are no coincidences, that everything happening to you is part of a greater pattern, a web of meaning that is guiding you even when you don't understand it. He believed that the universe speaks to us, not in words, but in events. In the setbacks that force us to change, in the detours that lead us somewhere we never intended to go. In the failures that, at first, seem like dead ends, until one day we realize they were the turning points that shaped everything. Younger me, I know you see failure as something meaningless, something to be avoided. But what if every mistake, every disappointment, every plan that collapsed was never random? What if failure wasn't happening to you, but for you? What if the things that went wrong weren't accidents, but messages, subtle nudges towards something you were meant to see? Think back to all the moments that didn't go to plan, the job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers just as you reached for it. At the time, you told yourself these were mistakes, that if you had been smarter, faster, better, you could have made them work. But one day you will look back and realize your failures were never roadblocks. They were reroutes. The things you lost weren't mistakes. They were clearing space for what was always meant to find you. Jung believed that when things fall apart, it is not chaos, it is synchronicity. It is life moving the pieces into place before you are ready to see the bigger picture. It is the unseen hand guiding you toward the life you were always meant to live. You think you are in control, that if you plan well enough, you can predict what's coming. But one day you will realize that the greatest things in your life, the moments that defined you, the choices that changed everything, were never the ones you planned. They were the ones that happened when you least expected them, the ones that arrived disguised as failure. Younger me, you will spend years fighting against failure, believing that if you could just do everything right, you could avoid the pain of things not working out. But here's what Jung wanted you to understand. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the intelligence of the universe at work. It is the unseen hand, moving pieces into place before you are ready to see the bigger picture. It is life rearranging itself to show you what you were never willing to see. One day at 40, you will look back and understand. The failures you feared were never random. They were never meaningless. They were part of a pattern, one that was shaping you long before you realized it. Younger me, failure is not a mistake. It is a message. And the most important moments of your life will not be the ones where you succeeded. They will be the ones where you finally understood what failure was trying to tell you. Younger me, you treat every failure as a personal verdict. You think that if you fall short, it means you weren't good enough. That if something doesn't go your way, it means you were never meant to have it. But Friedrich Nietzsche would tell you something else. He believed that hardship is not something to avoid, it is something to embrace. Because what does not break you outright makes you stronger in ways you won't understand until much later. Younger me, do you remember the first time you failed at something that truly mattered? Maybe it was that exam you thought you had in the bag, that opportunity you were certain was yours, the moment you stood in front of others only to stumble, only to fall. You felt the sharp sting of it, the embarrassment, the doubt. You told yourself that maybe you weren't cut out for bigger things after all, but here you are, still moving forward, still breathing, still fighting for more. One day, you will look back and realize that your greatest transformations didn't happen in moments of success. They happened in the moments when your hands were shaking, when your voice cracked, when you thought you had nothing left to give, but you kept going anyway. They happened in the nights you questioned yourself, in the days when no one believed in you, in the moments when giving up felt easier than standing back up, the moments that tested you to your core. Adversity carves into you, leaving its mark, and you will be tempted to think that each mark is a sign of weakness, but it isn't. It is a sign that you survived, that you endured, that you became something more than you were before. Younger me, you think you need constant achievement to prove you are worthy, but the truth is, success can be deceptive. It can make you think you've grown when you've merely stayed comfortable. Failure, on the other hand, forces you to grow. Each time you're tested, each time you push through something you once thought was impossible, your self-reliance becomes stronger, your foundation more unshakable. And one day when you reach 40, you will finally see it. The fears you once had about not being enough won't be erased by the things you accomplished. They will be transformed by the things you overcame. You won't look back and say, I was strong because I never lost. You will say, I was strong because I learned from every loss, and that younger me is the bedrock on which you will stand. Younger me, you have always believed that failure is a sign to stop. That if something doesn't work out the first time, it was never meant to be. That if the door doesn't open easily, then it wasn't your door to walk through. But Thomas Edison saw failure differently. He didn't see it as an end, but as an experiment. Each time something didn't work, he didn't abandon the path. He simply crossed one possibility off the list and moved forward, knowing that every failed attempt brought him one step closer to the answer he was searching for. You have spent years fearing wasted effort, convinced that every wrong turn is time lost. You measure progress by how quickly things fall into place. how seamlessly the pieces fit together. But one day you will realize that the greatest insights don't come from things going smoothly. They come from the moments when everything falls apart, when a plan unravels, when the thing you thought was certain slips through your fingers. Those moments aren't wasted time. They are data. Every rejection, every disappointment, every dream that didn't come to life exactly as you imagined, it was all teaching you something. Younger me, look back at all the things you once called failures, the job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that slipped away just as you reached for it. Each of those moments felt like an ending, but what if they weren't? What if they were simply nudging you towards something else? What if every closed door was redirecting you towards something more aligned with who you were meant to become? One day, when you reach 40, you'll look back and see it clearly. You'll see how the life you were chasing wasn't necessarily the life that was right for you. You'll realize that the setbacks you once cursed were the very moments that forced you to pause, to reevaluate, to make choices that led you somewhere better. You will finally understand what Edison meant when he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Because that's what life is. Younger me, one great experiment. The things that didn't work out weren't proof that you weren't meant to succeed. They were proof that you were learning. At 40, you will see that the life you were meant for isn't waiting for you at the end of a flawless plan. It's being built piece by piece every single time you try again. The real mistake was never failing. The real mistake would have been giving up too soon. Younger me, you have always believed that ability is something fixed, that people are either naturally talented or they aren't, that intelligence is something you either have or you don't, that success belongs to those who were born with the right skills, the right mind, the right luck. And when you struggled, when you found yourself falling behind, when you tried something and it didn't come easily, you saw it as proof that you weren't good enough. But Carol Dweck spent years studying what separates those who thrive from those who stay stuck. And she discovered something simple yet powerful. The people who truly grow are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who see failure as part of the process. Younger me, you have spent years believing that failure is proof of your limitations. That if something doesn't come naturally, it means you were never meant to do it. But one day, you will realize that failure was never proof of what you couldn't do. It was proof of what you could learn. Every skill you admire in others, every talent you wish you had, wasn't built overnight. It was built through practice, through effort, through the willingness to push through discomfort. The people who seem effortlessly successful, they are the ones who failed and kept going. Think about all the times you told yourself, "I'm just not good at this." The times you backed away from something difficult because it made you feel like you weren't enough. The times you saw someone excel and thought, they must be naturally gifted. What if you had looked at those moments differently? What if, instead of seeing failure as a stop sign, you had seen it as a challenge? What if, instead of asking, "Am I good enough?" you had asked, "How can I get better?" One day, when you reach 40, you will realize that your mind was never set in stone, that your abilities weren't predetermined, that every time you failed, every time you made a mistake, every time you struggled, your brain was rewiring itself, stretching itself, preparing you for the next level. And once you see that failure will stop feeling like an indictment, it will start feeling like an invitation. Younger me, the next time you fail, don't ask yourself, "Was I good enough?" Ask yourself, "What can I learn?" That question will take you further than you ever imagined. Younger me, there will be moments when you feel like giving up, times when you convince yourself that if it hasn't worked by now, it never will. You will mistake exhaustion for finality, thinking that effort is only worthwhile if it guarantees immediate success. You will tell yourself that knowing when to quit is wisdom. But Winston Churchill knew something different. He knew that success is never final, that failure is never fatal, and that the only thing that truly matters is the courage to continue. You believe that life should unfold in straight lines, that if you follow the right path, do everything correctly, and avoid too many mistakes, you'll eventually reach a place of certainty. But life isn't neat. It isn't predictable. There will be days when everything you built seems to be falling apart, when the weight of your failures feels too heavy to bear, when every door seems to close in your face. And in those moments, you'll face a choice to surrender, to let your setbacks convince you that this is the end, or to take one more step forward. Younger me, that step is everything. It is the moment that separates those who only dream from those who build. It is the moment that decides whether you let the past define you or whether you write a new story. It is the moment when you realize that resilience isn't about avoiding struggle. It's about standing back up, even when you have no certainty that things will get better. Churchill stood in the face of impossible odds through dark days when failure seemed inevitable. Even then, he refused to accept defeat. He knew that persistence is more powerful than talent, than luck, than any single moment of success. He knew that no matter how many times you are knocked down, what defines you is the decision to rise again. One day when you reach 40, you'll look back and realize just how many times you could have given up, but didn't. You'll remember the moments when you kept going, even when you didn't feel like it, when there was no immediate reward, when nothing made sense. And you'll see that what you built through those moments was something far greater than success. You built a version of yourself that could withstand anything. Younger me, you will fail. You will doubt. You will wonder if you have the strength to continue. But when that moment comes, remember this. The difference between those who succeed and those who stop trying is not ability, it is not intelligence, it is not luck, it is this. When others stop, you take one more step. Younger me, you are terrified of failure. You think that if you lose too much, if you fall too far, you will never recover. You see rock bottom as a place of no return, a point where all options disappear. But J.K. Rowling stood in that place and discovered something that most people never do: clarity. She lost everything she thought she needed and found that what remained was all that truly mattered. She discovered that when you have nothing left to lose, you finally see what is worth fighting for. One day, you will face your own version of rock bottom. It might be a dream that doesn't come true, a career that doesn't take off, a relationship that doesn't last. It might be the moment when the life you spent years building falls apart, leaving you standing in the wreckage, unsure of how to begin again. And when that moment comes, you will think it is the end, but it isn't. Younger me, rock bottom is not the place where life ends. It is the place where pretense ends. It is where everything false is stripped away, where you can no longer distract yourself with the illusion of control. And that is when something extraordinary happens. When everything unnecessary is gone, you see what is essential. When all expectations fall away, you hear your own voice clearly for the first time. Younger me, you have spent years chasing things that were never meant for you: approval, validation, the illusion of certainty. But when you reach your lowest point, you will stop running. You will realize that the things you thought mattered so much were never what defined you. You will finally ask yourself the question that changes everything: what do I actually want? One day, when you reach 40, you will see that the moments you once thought were your greatest failures were, in truth, your greatest opportunities. Because when you lose everything unnecessary, you are finally free to build something real. You will survive your worst days. You will walk through the fire and emerge stronger than before, and one day you will look back at the life you built from the ashes and realize that you would not trade those hard moments for anything, because they gave you what nothing else could: a chance to start over, this time as the person you were always meant to be. Younger me, you have spent so much of your life believing that failure is something to be feared, that it is a sign you are falling behind, a mark against your worth, proof that you were never meant for more. You thought that success would bring you peace, that if you could just achieve enough, avoid enough mistakes, and keep moving forward without faltering, everything would fall into place. But now you know the truth. Carl Jung showed you that failure is never just failure. It is a pattern, a message, a force greater than yourself moving you towards something you cannot yet see. He taught you that midlife isn't when you lose your potential. It's when you finally begin to recognize the hidden meaning behind everything that didn't go as planned. The version of yourself you were chasing was never the one you were meant to be. The failures you feared were never obstacles, they were course corrections. Friedrich Nietzsche made you see that adversity is not an obstacle to success. It is the very thing that makes you strong enough to withstand what's ahead. He reminded you that it is not the easy moments that define you, but the ones that test you to your core, that hardship does not take from you. It reveals what was always there, waiting to be seen. The things you thought were breaking you were in fact shaping you. The struggles you wished away were the very moments that made you unbreakable. Thomas Edison proved to you that there is no such thing as wasted effort, only lessons learned. Every so-called failure was never an ending, but a step forward, another discarded possibility that led you closer to the right one. He showed you that life is not a series of fixed paths, but a constant experiment. Every wrong turn was not a detour from your purpose. It was part of discovering it. Carol Dweck made you realize that talent is not something you were born with. It is something you cultivate. Every mistake, every setback, every moment of doubt was not proof of your limitations. It was proof of your growth. Your ability to improve, to adapt, to learn was never fixed. It was something you shaped with every challenge you took on, and the only real failure was the one that convinced you to stop trying. Winston Churchill stood beside you in your lowest moments and reminded you that persistence is the only thing that separates those who succeed from those who give up too soon. He showed you that the courage to continue is what defines the people who make it through. That life does not reward perfection, it rewards those who refuse to stay down. The world does not belong to those who never fail, it belongs to those who never quit. And if you don't believe me now, remember this: your future self is watching, and they are hoping you do not stop. And J.K. Rowling showed you that rock bottom is not where life ends, but where clarity begins. She reminded you that losing everything that wasn't meant for you is what gives you the space to finally build something real. She showed you that sometimes the greatest gift failure can give you is the chance to start over, not as the person you were trying to be, but as the person you were always meant to be. Younger me, you are no longer defined by the fear of failing. You are defined by what you do with it. Every setback you thought would break you was actually shaping you. Every closed door was guiding you. Every moment you thought you had lost your way was simply a detour leading to something better. You spent so much time thinking midlife was something to fear, that turning 40 meant time was running out, but now you know the truth. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Younger me, you are searching for a life without failure, but that life does not exist. The only life that exists, the only one worth living, is the one where you embrace it all. The missteps, the heartbreaks, the lessons, the losses. And when you finally understand this, when you stop waiting for things to be easy, you will realize life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be yours. And you, younger me, are finally ready.